There's days where I feel like I'm in a never-ending Twilight Zone episode. It really does. When black is down, upside down is white, and nothing makes sense anymore. And things that make the most common logical sense to any normal person is deemed deadly and dangerous. Apparently, the idea of peace, negotiations, common sense, integrity, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Things that most everyday people, every single individual, would so heartily agree upon, is now deemed dangerous and harmful because our criminal ruling class and our global elitists profit off the death and disparity and destruction to the brink of nuclear war. And we've shown you how the Democratic Party, the parts of the Republican Party, only 57 Republicans voted against the continuation of military aid to Ukraine, which is the most corrupted, Nazi-filled country in Eastern Europe right now. Funneling escalation to this war. Nothing's being prevailed on this. And only few individuals are willing to call this out. Not even the Squad, not Bernie, not, Ro Khanna, or any, even progressive outlets. I've never even seen Kyle Kalinske or Crystal Ball and Sagar mentioning anything about de-escalation. They're the ones that are actually trying to increase this more. And, TYT obviously is going to be pro-war no matter what. Thanks, Katzenberg. But it's amazing how the most unlikely people are willing to call this out. And we've shown this before. Donald Trump, believe it or not, the guy that was supposed to, oh my God, we don't want an orange buffoon having control of the nuclear launch codes. Oh my God, he's going to start World War III. He called North Korea a short guy. Rah, 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 rah. Remember how they said he was going to cause a nuclear destruction? Well, turns out it was the guy next to him. Turns out it was the guy after Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, this is what he said about how we need to have peace negotiations. And this is refreshing, even from a nefarious person like him. Because let me tell you, I'm one of the OG people that didn't like Donald Trump at the beginning. I didn't like him on The Apprentice. Wasn't a fan of him as a politician, but he's a wild card, and sometimes he does get things right. They say a broken clock is right twice a day, and here's where he got something right. He calls for a peace negotiation out of all the politicians out there. No Democrat, no Republican really has ever mentioned about this, but take a listen.
We must demand the immediate negotiation of a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine, or we will end up in World War III, and there will be nothing left of our planet, all because stupid people didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue. They really don't understand. I rebuilt our military. I rebuilt our nuclear power. They don't understand what they're dealing with, the power of nuclear. We must demand.
So that's powerful statements, concerning that no one is mentioning about how we need to bring to negotiation these countries. We need to align ourselves in diplomacy, and we need to end and resolve this conflict. But as Julian Assange has kept us reminded, the whole goal of these proxy wars, these regime change wars, is not to have a winnable war. It's not to even have a war that finishes. The whole point is endless war to profiteer the military-industrial complex, the contractors that profit off the weapons distribution of illegal warfare, and the death and dehumanization of populations. That's what it's really about. It's about, business. It's about geopolitics. It's about the globalist elites that have captured our military and using it for nefarious purposes, for offensive measures and not for defense. It's just out of control. And take it from Donald Trump to sadly be the voice of reason. And people can disagree with it or not, but at least he's willing. At least he says that we need a negotiation. And that apparently scares the bejesus out of the establishment. It scares the bejesus out of them because the establishment has fallen into the propaganda of nuclear warfare. They're the ones that are escalating and pushing for as much of this as possible, trying to brainwash and manipulate people that you need to self-sacrifice yourself in order to beat against Putin. And like I said, the only reason we're doing this is for nefarious geopolitical reasons. We're doing this for business purposes, for, natural gas pipelines. We're doing this to overthrow the Russian government because it's something we wanted to do ever since the end of the Cold War. This is all just planned out by NATO, by NATO-aligned nations, by the military-industrial complex, by global leaders in order to distraught and desecrate all across Eastern Europe and cause this chaos. And it's costing lives, civilians, and casualties all around the world because of this. And because we live in such a weird, out of control, Twilight Zone parallel universe, where you think that peace and negotiations would be the most common sense thing imaginable, at least it is to me, and probably to you guys that are watching this, it seems the most rational idea to have negotiations. Business Insider points out that Putin's nuclear threats are pushing people like Trump and Elon Musk to press for a Ukraine peace deal. Okay, that's good. That's good. They're trying to push for a negotiation. They want to resolve this. They want things to go back to normal and try to resolve conflicts back here. We have a homelessness epidemic. We had food scarcities. We have high inflation rates. We have cost of living has gone up. We have an energy crisis, so on and so forth. We have a lot of shit that we got covered here. And the fact that we're funneling this money for an unwinnable war is just corrupted, evil, and nefarious. We need to stop this. But this is where Business Insider, of course, being part of the war machine, and because it's Business Insider and war is basically a business, this is what they say. A nuclear expert warns that's dangerous. So, two individuals that are speaking out on trying to find peace and relief and trying to de-escalate the situation so we don't end up in World War III, so we don't end up in a nuclear atrocity and to a nuclear situation that, eliminates all life on Earth. They deem that as dangerous. A peace deal. As opposed to annihilating the entire planet. This is how backwards, upside down bullshit 180 this goes. That we're getting mainstream publications denouncing peace deals as more dangerous than killing all of society. That's how crazy this is. And they say this is how crazy this is. An understandable desire to avoid a nuclear war could actually make the world more dangerous if it means rushing to implement a peace in Ukraine that serves Russian interests, an expert told Insider. So, because the paranoia of it probably serving Russian interests, and what, are Russian people also interested in peace? Maybe that's something we can all have in common. Maybe that's what all humanity has in common. Instead of trying to divide us on our differences and trying to, use identity politics as a weapon, maybe we can all come together to realize, hey, we like living on this planet. We want to live for a little longer. How about we end nuclear warfare and give peace a chance? But because we live in such a paranoid world and because Russiagate has plagued this country for years as paranoid and scapegoated and fear-mongered people and brainwashed and manipulate people's judgment for so long that they find negotiation, ending nuclear warfare, ending this war is more dangerous than escalating to the point of killing all Earth. Such a move, which which some influential figures have called for risk setting a precedent that atomic blackmail is the way to win wars and take territory troops can't otherwise hold. A model that could be copycat by even the weakest nuclear armed states and may only succeed at delaying another war. Clearly, these experts, which they don't have names, they don't have sources, they just say an expert. But apparently these experts have no idea what nuclear bombs are capable of. They don't understand the situation that we're in. They don't understand that even the smallest nuclear missile, say if there was one missile, tiny little one, that went from Russia right to Ukraine, just a tiny little one, the impact of explosion, the impact that will have globally, is still consequential. It is still massively consequential. The amount of impact it's going to have on the rest of the world. And they don't understand that. They don't understand the capability. Just like Donald Trump said, these are stupid people that don't understand the consequences of what nuclear warfare has done. And it's not just going to be a simple Chernobyl incident. It's going to get worse. And the impact is going to be deadlier. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of nuclear winters. Those are possibilities. Those are actual possibilities. Pavel Prodvig, an expert on Russia's nuclear doctrine and capabilities at the UN Institute for Disarmament Research, said in a phone interview from Geneva that such a deal on terms deemed favorable by Moscow in the wake of battlefield losses and an explicit response to the Kremlin's nuclear brinksmanship could well make the world much less peaceful. Well, I guess the saying goes, death is always bliss. Is that where they're coming from? That, if we kill all life on Earth, then we don't have to worry about peace. We don't have to worry about any of this because there'll be no conflicts. There'll be no homeless people. If everyone just dies, then, yes! We've solved all the world's problems. Yay! Jeez. But, having people on Earth and actually resulting in problem solving and actually focusing on issues back home and, finding solutions to domestic situations, that's what's making it less peaceful. The West supports Ukraine with weapons and financial and moral and political support. Giving that up and saying that, well, we are too afraid of nuclear threats, and so we just want to make a deal. That would certainly set a precedent that would not be very positive. What? So, diplomacy and being a good example, especially the United States, because the United States has had a long fucking history of not having diplomacy. They have no interest, no intent of any peace negotiation whatsoever. I mean, the United States is the number one supporter of terrorism. The United States. Not Middle Eastern countries, not Latin America, not anywhere in Russia, not anywhere in China. The United States. We funnel, we serve, we arm, we bolster up terror groups all around the world to cause more destruction, more chaos, so that we can go in and capture all that and capitalize off the war and death and disparity of other individuals. We're the ones that are setting the world on fire. So, being the bigger person and negotiating and actually finding a conflict resolution to having two countries just go along with their business and, cooperate. Yeah, that would actually be beneficial to everybody. That would certainly set a precedent that wouldn't be very positive, he says. If you yield to this nuclear threat once, then what would prevent Russia in the future or others to do the same thing? I don't know, maybe the fact that they're not also scared and paranoid. You ever think of that? You ever think of why North Korea has a lot of nuclear weapons. Maybe it's because the United States has ships all around the country scaring North Korea and saying that we might have to destroy them, so they have to fight back. You ever think for a second? You ever think for a second why exactly these countries have nuclear powers, considering the United States has the biggest nuclear power source? Maybe it's something to do with that. Maybe it's something to do with retaliation. Maybe it's something to do with self-defense, considering the United States has overthrown and put the rest of the world on fire. Over 1,000 military bases across the world, the United States. I don't know how many Russia has. Probably less than 100. But we have over thousands of U.S. military bases across the world that we can keep count of. We also have secret ones. We're currently in Syria. We're still in parts of Afghanistan. We're in Iraq. We're in Somalia right now. We're in Ethiopia. We're in all parts of the world right now, causing havoc, destruction, chaos, and terror. So, yeah, of course, Russia and China and North Korea and a bunch of other countries are looking to self-defend themselves from the crazy nutcases of the United States. The bloodshed tyranny and authoritarian nightmares of the United States war empire. Just giving it as a point, he continued, would actually be dangerous. Talk of nuclear Armageddon has grown into a fever in recent weeks as Russian President Vladimir Putin, his military losing ground in what was originally intended to be a 72-hour regime change operation, has doubled down on existential threats to Ukraine and partner nations. If the territorial integrity of our country is threatened, we will certainly use all the means at our disposal to protect Russia and our people, Putin said in a speech last month, just before normally expanding Russian borders by illegally annexing swaths of eastern Ukraine. This is not a bluff, he said. And again, you have to look at the context and history of how this war actually started. Because people still believe that Russia just swarmed in at the brink of a blue and decided, hey, we're just going to, overthrow this country and we're going to slaughter a bunch of people. They don't realize that, A, there's a bunch of neo-Nazis in the formation of Ukraine that are taking over the country and their military and their political system. They don't realize how Volodymyr Zelensky got elected in the first place. He didn't. They overthrew the democratically elected government to throw this guy into power because he was so easily manipulated. They don't realize the Minsk Accord. They don't realize the NATO-aligned countries have ignored peace negotiations and aligned themselves across the Russian border. They don't realize that they've been using Ukraine as a prong to build aggression towards Russia. They don't realize that the United States wanted to go to an economic warfare with Russia in the vaults of natural gas pipelines. They don't realize any of this because they're not being told this in the mainstream media. And neither is Business Insider telling you this, which is why they have experts telling you that a peace negotiation is more dangerous than nuclear warfare. That's where I am conflicted. I feel like I'm a victim. I'm inside a mental institution that doesn't make sense, and I want out. I want to get out of this crazy nightmare. I want to wake up from this horrific situation, and I want things to actually go to common sense and decency again. Which is hard to find these days. I feel like we're in a parallel universe, and I'm just trying to escape. Although experts and intelligence agencies have seen no signs that Russia is preparing to match its leader rhetorically a belligerence with a nuclear strike, the prospect of such an attack, however minuscule, is nonetheless a source of growing concern given the unpredictability of military conflict and speculation over the mental state of the man who started the war in Ukraine. Yeah, the United States. The United States. And considering we don't know about half the wars the United States has been, considering we are not told where our military goes and why they're going over there, they send how many National Guard troops from state to state to state over to the Horn of Africa? They don't tell you why. They don't tell you why. They just tell you, oh, it's humanitarian reasons. We're doing it for, democracy and peace, and there's a conflict over there. But they don't realize we're going to the Horn of Africa because A, we're already in Somalia. We're already causing devastation, so we'll just send more troops over there. And they also don't realize that the Horn of Africa is huge in mineral wealth. And concerning corporations are looking for more minerals, they're going to scapegoat to another country and hijack its resources and slaughter anyone who gets in their way. We are the bullies of the fucking world. And that's why we have articles like this. That's why someone like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, no matter how much you hate them or disagree or if you like them or whatever, regardless of how you feel about these two individuals, it is so remarkably refreshing that these two powerful people are willing to actually give peace a chance. And the fact that giving peace a chance has become so dangerous, according to the mainstream media, that we're willing to sacrifice. We're willing to have a collective death wish, as JFK says. We're having a collective death wish to blow up the entire planet, then rather than having a resolution, getting out of the wars, and focus on domestic situations back home. We have rising inflation, cost of living has skyrocketed, there's a homelessness epidemic, there's a mental health crisis, people can't afford healthcare, people can't afford education, people can't afford anything. We're at the point of an economic downfall. We're in the worst recession known imaginable. And we're wasting so much money trying to bolster this war, a war that will not be won. And they know this. They goddamn know this. As Julian Assange keeps reminding us that the point of funding these wars, the point of starting these wars, is not to have a resolution. They don't want a resolution. They want to continue on this conflict for as long as it takes, for how deadly as it takes, to continue to bolster their finances. It's all about capitalizing the idea of war. And that's why they're doing stuff like this. And resulting in situations like this. NATO kicks off nuclear war games on Monday. So now they're just going to normalize the fact that, yeah, humanity's going to die. You're going to starve. You're going to sacrifice yourself because global leaders are a bunch of sociopathic, bloodthirsty, freaking goons. That they could not care less about anything of humanity. They could not care less about people or planet or anything in between. And they rather annihilate the entire planet and their existence of humanity for their own selfish gains. Those are the kind of people that they are. And Donald Trump had to be the voice of reason. Donald Trump had to be the voice of reason, and Elon Musk, and Tulsi Gabbard, and Jimmy Dore, and people like me, and Jackson Hinkle. Only very few people are willing to call this out. Aaron Monte, the Gray Zone. Just to name a few. Because you're not going to hear this from TYT. You're not going to hear this from I almost said Mild Zelensky. Kyle Kalinske. You're not going to hear this from Crystal Ball. You're not going to hear this from Breaking Points. Like, that's just how devastating it all is. It is revolting. It is devastating. It is chaotic. I feel like a victim in a nightmare that I just cannot get out of. And I will scream to the top of my lungs for peace over this. And the fact that people are retaliating against, individuals like me saying that I'm a Putin puppet just shows how completely clueless they are of the situation, don't know the impacts and the sacrifices they're making to themselves in order to advance this. That's just how evil and maniacal this all is.